Good morning, Uganda. We hope you had a fantastic night. Today is Tuesday, the 10th of February 2026. And we all know that UNEP, the Ministry of Education and Sports, gazetted this day to be the returning date for students, for pupils, for learners to get back to school. I hope you are in high gear so that we can begin the first term of school of this academic year. But in Kampala, especially the metropolitan areas, we have had a heavy downfall that is rain, and it's still raining. If you're planning to come to town, come equipped with a jumper, a sweater, the appropriate shoes because you know it can really get messy once it rains. Welcome to the show. My name is Joan in Moronji. I'm with Chirabo Robert. Good morning, Chirabo.
A lovely morning to you, Joan. How are you?
I'm very well. You braved the rain.
Definitely. You see, we are soldiers in one way or the other.
Yeah.
Because much as it's raining, someone will tune on their television set to know what is happening.
What is happening? Is it still raining in town? Or
Can you imagine, even when there are riots in Kampala, when there is violence everywhere, people will run to the TV to know
what is happening.
What is happening. So journalists are more or less like soldiers.
Okay.
Because we don't have excuses in our profession. Someone is in bed, they're taking a cup of coffee, maybe they have come to their dining room, they want to watch Good Morning Uganda. So you don't have excuses like...
Oh, they're in jam and watching us on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
So media is another calling that deserves people who can brave anything to be on set. So you don't have excuses in our profession.
Absolutely. And if you're planning to come to town, I've noticed something. Some of the traffic lights are not working. Maybe it could be to some technicalities because of the rain. So as you're approaching robots, please drive with caution so that you do not experience any accidents. But apparently what is happening, before I even tell you that, previously in December 2025, a Ugandan civil society organization appealed to government authorities to urgently rescue a group of Ugandan migrant workers who had been allegedly trafficked to Cambodia, where they were reportedly facing torture and being forced into criminal activities. Now the good news is that government has unveiled plans to repatriate up to 500 Ugandans stranded in Cambodia after they fell victim of human trafficking syndicates that had been lured them into false employment promises. These were migrants that had been stranded from parts of Asia and Africa. So according to the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Henry Oliem Okello, notified us that the government had been in talks with the Cambodian government, and now there is, I think there is a light that is going to be viewed at the end of the tunnel. However, he warned Ugandans of taking part of having been using illegal ways to access international labor, or for firms that are not licensed officially by the government of Uganda. That these are the results of not paying heed to such guidelines and stringent statistics that have been put up by the government. So if you're out there and you're planning to use some illegal means to access labor internationally, you might end up in one of these dire states.
Well, that is very right, because we also saw a family of a Ugandan who died in the Russia-Ukraine war.
Yeah.
Calling upon government to assist them return the body of their loved ones. So Ugandans, much as you're craving for employment or greener pastures, you must be very, very specific. Now, Joan, briefly, what would you make if Ugandans were not electing the president, and the president would be elected by members of parliament? I need your view on that.
I think with the Constitution of Uganda, it would be a disservice to other Ugandans.
Well, the Constitution has been amended so many times. We can still amend our constitution. The constitution is not like a Bible. It is amended and moves according to times. So what we find relevant at that particular time, we can make an amendment as and when we feel necessary. So if we wake up, this issue of everyone going to the polls, voting, regardless of their interests in the country, you know, now we have members of parliament vote for the president, because we have ever had something similar.
If at all it is amended.
You know, people don't read history very well. I've had very many people who talk about President Museveni was rigged in the 1980s election and went to the bush. Actually, the president was not standing for presidency, because by then it was your party through the members of parliament that would elect the president.
True.
So we've had something similar, slightly similar to what is being talked about then. So that not everyone was electing the president. That we just made a change in our constitution. It was that members of parliament amongst themselves come up and vote the president. And
when you look at the current numbers of MPs, the incoming and those the incumbents, of course, I think things wouldn't really change. We still have an interim president.
Maybe the people who vote would give away voting because they have been paid money and small things. You know, some people, they don't talk about the bribes. That if someone tells you I need 500 million to become a member of parliament, 600 million, even so on, I think is in Keretanya, paraded before court, that someone had to ooze off with the curtains to prepare.
To prepare over a billion shillings. But Robert, what do we have on the local scene today?
Well, we begin with the new UNEB board, that is the Uganda National Examinations Board. The Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, pledged government's commitment to support the UNEB in the executing of its mandate. This was contained in her speech read for her by the State Minister for Higher Education, Dr. Jesse Muyingo, at the inauguration of the 12th UNEB board at Hotel Eniyana in Kampala. She urged the board to fight examination malpractices. The Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, encouraged stakeholders to strengthen the integrity, credibility, and efficiency and effectiveness of the national examinations system. This was in her speech read for her by Minister for Higher Education, J.C. Muyingo. The function, which also coincided with the swearing in for the UNEB board, presided over by Council Brian Kajuri, Minister Muyingo urged the new board also to carry out their duties with strong sense of responsibility, teamwork, and patriotism. He commended the outgoing board for their efforts to fight practices against UNEB's system, especially examinations malpractices. The executive director of UNEB, Dan Odong, advised the incoming board to address the challenges facing them while doing their work. The incoming board chairperson, Celestine Obua, pledged to deliver quality services. Security is committed to maintaining its presence at the residence of former presidential candidate and NUP President Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. While addressing the press, police spokesperson Lusoke Kituma said police has not yet compiled the election policing report and are therefore unable to establish the extent of the impact and of the recently concluded elections, which may have had issues regarding national security and democratic principles. From polling day of the 2026 general elections to date, security has maintained a visible presence at the residence of former presidential candidate and NUP President Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu in Magere. Police seem not clear about specific offenses committed by the former presidential candidate. Security have told the media that they are working on the policing report for the recently concluded general elections, while police have dismissed allegations of a curfew in some parts of the country, explaining that the situation is a result of ongoing security snap checks on major highways and night operations in selected areas. A section of NRM youth under the NRM Revolutionary Network proposed the position of Speaker should be subjected to internal party democracy through primaries. The NRM youth also backed a proposal that the president should be elected by members of parliament. The NRM Central Executive Committee last month endorsed Speaker Anita Among and her deputy Thomas Tayebwa following a meeting chaired by party chairperson and President-elect Yoweri Museveni. The SEC resolved that the duo deserve another term, citing their role in advancing party interests in parliament. Party leaders also pointed out an existing resolution that allows a sitting speaker and deputy speaker to serve 2 terms uninterrupted. The development comes as Justice and Constitutional Affairs Minister Norbert Mao informally declared interest in the position of Speaker. But speaking at the function in Mbarara, Deputy Speaker Thomas Tayebwa dismissed Mao's bid, describing it as his own idea and wishful thinking. Some party youth under the National Resistance Movement Revolutionary Network are challenging the party's top leadership over the endorsement of a Speaker of Parliament and the deputy for another term. The youth insist the speakership should be subjected to internal party democracy, just like other elective positions within the party. The group plans to propose to the floor of Parliament for debate. In the meantime, the NRM youth also support a proposal to elect the president by members of Parliament. Uganda police have released a back-to-school advisory aimed at keeping the school-going population safe. The advisory calls for collaboration among all stakeholders to ensure a safe school environment, especially by strengthening school security committees. As the annual academic year begins, security officials have applied and appealed to education stakeholders to review and strengthen school security committees to ensure the safety of learners. School managers are tasked to evaluate the functionality of different infrastructures, ranging from swimming pools and firefighting systems to other relevant access points. Stakeholders in the transport sector are encouraged to be considerate with transporting learners back to school. The Police Directorate of Traffic and Road Safety intends to intensify operations on major roads to handle those violating transport standard orders. School managers are advised to provide proper meals and also proper means of transport for learners without violating road rules. Meanwhile, the Amputate Self-Help Network Uganda wants the Ministry of Transport to restrain the implementation of the express penalty system, saying it would protect learners on board. During the implementation of the enforcement on roads, users became more responsible and fighting a few cases of accidents. Well, that brings us to the end of our local stories this morning. Let's see what Joanne has for us when it comes to the international scene.
From our global coverage, we're beginning off with King Charles, who made his first intervention in the last round of revelations in the Epstein scandal, saying Buckingham Palace is ready to support the police as they consider allegations against his brother Andrew Mountbatten at Windsor. The king has made clear in his words and through unprecedented actions his profound concern at allegations which continue to come to light in respect of Mr. Mountbatten Windsor's conduct, a palace spokesman said. While the specific claims in question are for Mr. Mountbatten Windsor to address, if we are approached by Thames Valley Police, we stand ready to support them as you would expect, he said. Thames Valley Police confirmed it is assessing whether there are grounds to investigate a complaint by Anti-Monarchy Group Republic, which reported Mountbatten Windsor for suspected misconduct in public office and breach of official secrets. Emails from the recently released batch of Epstein files appear to show the former prince passing on reports of visits to Singapore, Hong Kong, and Vietnam, and confidential details of investment opportunities. After the trips on 30th November 2010, he appears to have forwarded official reports of those visits sent by his then special advisor, Amit Patel, to Epstein 5 minutes after receiving them. There were also details of investment opportunities in Afghanistan described as confidential, and these appear to have been passed on to Epstein on 24th December 2010. Forging forward, the United Nations has asked the United States for clarity regarding unpaid budget dues, as declining U.S. engagement puts the international organization under growing strain. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric said on Monday that while the U.S. ambassador Mike Waltz said last week that payments would begin within weeks, no further details had been offered. We've seen the statements, and frankly, the Secretary General has been in touch for quite some time on about this issue with Ambassador Waltz, Dujarric said during a news briefing. Our budget controller has been in touch with the U.S. Indications were given. We are waiting to see exactly when payments will be made and in what amounts, he added. Now, UN officials have said that unpaid fees from the U.S. account for about 95% of all outstanding UN budget dues, as the administration of President Donald Trump decreases U.S. involvement in international organizations. UN Chief Antonio Guterres warned in a January letter that the international body faces imminent financial collapse on account of unpaid membership dues. And moving on, a rubber boat on a sad note carrying 55 passengers, including 2 babies, overturned off the coast of Libya, the UN Migration Agency says. The only survivors, 2 Nigerian women, were rescued by the Libyan authorities on Friday. The International Organization for Migration announced on Monday. The boat was carrying migrants and refugees from various African countries, it said. The boat sank after taking on water approximately 6 hours after departing from the coastal city of Al Zawiya in northern western Libya. The IOM says that almost 500 migrants have been reported dead or missing trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea from Libya so far in 2026. Libya has become a staging point for migrants from sub-Saharan Africa seeking to reach Europe since a longtime leader Muammar Gaddafi was killed in 2011. Survivors told IOM that the rubber dinghy had departed at around 2300 hours local time from Al Zawiya, west of Tripoli. It overturned several hours later in the early hours of Friday north of Zawara. It is not immediately clear why it has taken so long for the news to emerge. And that brings us to the end of our international coverage.
Do you know, when I watch such a story regarding Libya, it reminds me of the good days when Muammar Gaddafi was the president of Libya. Now, Libyans that have died on waters trying to cross, seeking better pastures, a year, even if you add all of them, cannot make even a quarter of those that were mistreated when Gaddafi was in power. Because people said he was a dictator, he wouldn't want this, some made all sorts of allegations. Now,
the fact that it's even just February, but over 500
over 500. Those, even if Gaddafi was bad as he was portrayed, could not have been killed in 1 year. Now, that is a lesson to many African countries that think solutions will come from the West. What did the people of Libya benefit when they thought that their solution would come from the West and connived to overthrow and kill Gaddafi?
And of course, I think it is now a major problem in Africa, whereby citizens decide to use illegal means to get to other countries, especially in Europe and USA. But Robert, what do we have on the local press?
Well, let's look at what is in the New Vision this morning. And looking at the New Vision this morning, It talks about arts teachers to get 550 billion pay rise. Finally, here we are, the arts teachers. I know someone must be very, very excited. Is it Philbert Baguma? Yes, here you finally made that breakthrough. Then Auditor General exposes rot in medicine supply. Very unfortunate. And there we see Museveni honors Kano Nakalema's father. Still looking at the new vision, joy as Koboko pupils get missing results. And Chinese celebrate New Year in Kampala. We are in February. It's the beginning of a new year.
They celebrated it yesterday.
Yesterday. Well, we live in different worlds.
I think yesterday actually it was Sunday.
Now for them, the year has started. For us, we are 2 months into the year. Still in the new vision, finance, public service agree on enhancement for remaining workers. So it's not only for the teachers, other workers, something could be coming because they have now agreed. And compulsory sickle cell screening for newborn starts. Well, this is something very good. But there's where I saw a clip that was talking about compulsory DNA.
Yeah, it was a misinterpretation
I think it was misinterpretation,
events.
but it brought a lot of excitement.
Yeah, the PS talked about about sickle cells, but even the posters that were circulating indicated DNA, and the men were so happy. I'm like,
oh, definitely, we were happy, but also scared because it leads to, you know, DNA in Uganda has proven brokerage or marriages ending. We don't know why. If I say the child is yours, why would you even have to? How many? What is the percentage of families that have gone for DNA, and the child turn out to be, or the children turn out to be for the father? They will tell you it's 20%. I remember the spokesperson of Ministry of Internal Affairs. Statistics were showing only 20% of men that have done this paternity test, and the children out of 100.
But Robert, are you aware that even some DNA results portray that even the mother is not?
But those are rare, very exceptional. It's like a camel going through the whole of a needle, the eye of a needle.
Let's look at our neighbors of East Africa, what their press holds at this morning of 10th, Tuesday, February 2026. And we're beginning off with the Citizen in Tanzania. There is a big heading there, and it says, VP backs industry university solution to unemployment. As for years, graduate unemployment has remained one of Tanzania's most difficult and emotionally charged development challenges. You'll find that on page 4. And Tanzania unveils one of Africa's largest CNG hubs in green transition. And there is a consolata there from classroom leader to Kiswahili champion. And of course, there is a business segment for you there in the Citizen, and enforcement gaps laid bare by illegal e-bikes. Okay, and beneath that, a hard task ahead for Samia's newly appointed lieutenants. That is in the Citizen. And moving on to the Daily Nation. In Kenya, the heading there is, Governors defy Senate amid bribery scandal. There are some who missed the Senate that are listed there, and the notorious for snubbing the Senate are also listed there. And it says impunity. And a former Moya MP linked to car theft syndicate. Oh. Then this is the former And of course, accusations of lawmakers demanding bribes have persisted and even forced dissolution of a committee in 2015. And yes, on a sad note still, 4 brothers die in a quarry that authorities refused to refill. Okay, that is it that we had from the updates of the press this morning. And while you are sipping on Ugandan coffee, that's in our nature. We as Good Morning Uganda, we are wholeheartedly sponsored by the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. Have that Ugandan coffee so that you can support Uganda. And of course, it is a very tasty one, if I can testify. But sit back, get late, as we have a lot coming up. We have sports, we have the agenda, we have also business. But why not listen to Pastor Wilson Bogembe, who cares, as you wake up to go to the morning, as you're going to work, and as you're sipping on Ugandan coffee. Good morning, Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Today is Tuesday, the 10th of February 2026. And we all know that UNEP, the Ministry of Education and Sports, gazetted this day to be the returning date for students, for pupils, for learners to get back to school. I hope you are in high gear so that we can begin the first term of school of this academic year. But in Kampala, especially the metropolitan areas, we have had a heavy downfall that is rain, and it's still raining. If you're planning to come to town, come equipped with a jumper, a sweater, the appropriate shoes, because you know it can really get messy once it rains. Welcome to the show. My name is Joan Moronji. I'm with Chirabo Robert. Good morning, Chirabo.
A lovely morning to you, Joan. How are you?
I'm very well. You braved the rain.
Definitely. You see, we are soldiers in one way or the other.
Yeah.
Because much as it's raining, someone will tune on their television set to know what is happening.
What is happening? Is it still raining in town? Or
Can you imagine, even when there are riots in Kampala, when there is violence everywhere, people will run to the TV to know
what is happening.
What is happening. So journalists are more or less like soldiers.
Okay.
Because we don't have excuses in our profession. Someone is in bed, they're taking a cup of coffee, maybe they have come to their dining room, they want to watch Good Morning Uganda. So you don't have excuses like...
Oh, they're in jam and watching us on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
So media is another calling that deserves people who can brave anything to be on set. So you don't have excuses in our profession.
Absolutely. And if you're planning to come to town, I've noticed something. Some of the traffic lights are not working. Maybe it could be to some technicalities because of the rain. So as you're approaching robots, please drive with caution so that you do not experience any accidents. But apparently what is happening, before I even tell you that, previously in December 2025, a Ugandan civil society organization appealed to government authorities to urgently rescue a group of Ugandan migrant workers who had been allegedly trafficked to Cambodia, where they were reportedly facing torture and being forced into criminal activities. Now the good news is that government has unveiled plans to repatriate up to 500 Ugandans stranded in Cambodia after they fell victim of human trafficking syndicates that had been lured them into false employment promises. These were migrants that had been stranded from parts of Asia and Africa. So according to the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Henry Oliem Okello, notified us that the government had been in talks with the Cambodian government.
Eating can't be stopped. It's even harder to lose weight. Come and give it a try. Genshikang L-carnitine chromium capsules. Plant extract, scientific ratio. Take 3 capsules each time. The active ingredient accelerates fat burning, eat twice a day, don't take a detour. Weight loss starts now. Genshikang L-carnitine with chromium capsules helps you stay in shape. Please follow medical advice when taking this product. For more information, visit our website www.hgo.com or call 0800 335555.
Janani Luwum Day is a public holiday in Uganda, annually celebrated on 16th February. It marks the day in 1977 when former Archbishop of the Church of Uganda was martyred for his courageous stand against human rights abuses during Idi Amin's regime. The 49th commemoration of St. Janani Luwum Day will take place under the theme Anchored in Christ for Stability, Peace and Unity in Muchwini Sub-County, Kitgum District. Don't miss the live event on Monday 16 February 2026 on UBC TV.
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model, PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Thank you so much for watching UBC TV. Welcome back from that first interaction with Robert and Joanna. My name is Julie F. Nantaba. It's time for The Real, and this morning we are looking at the persisting problem of child marriages. Now, child marriages is a problem that is persisting and is definitely identified by the government of Uganda. And it's one issue that we are chewing on this morning, of course, not by ourselves, but with you on the other side. So 0709 602592 is the WhatsApp number that you should text WhatsApp and be part of the conversation. Now, according to according to Plan International, child marriages refers to all marriages or unions in which one or both spouses are under the age of 18 years. And in this case, they were not even able to give their free and informed consent. But if you think about it even deeply, even if they had their own consent, but they were definitely below the age of 18, it's still wrong. But even according to the United Nations Population Fund, child marriage is a human rights violation, and it refers to any informal marriage or union of a child under 18 with an adult or with another child. And one would wonder, why would even the word informal be used? Because it
it gives a connotation that there should be a formal marriage, even if they are below 18. These are just my own 2 cents, but definitely we'll be asking my colleagues to chip in as well. But looking at some of the statistics, 1 in 4 adolescent girls aged between 15 to 19 years in Uganda has either had a child or is currently pregnant with her first baby. And 18% of annual pregnancies recorded in the country are child or teenage pregnancies, obviously coming from a setting of a child marriage. Let's dig in and let's discuss. John, I'll definitely start with you. We have obviously talked about the causes, but why is it persisting? And indeed, what is causing the persistence of this problem?
In Africa, especially the Sub-Saharan Africa, it is really a problem. And also in some parts of South Asia, whereby we are having early marriages. And a lot of factors contribute to this, and the number one factor that I've noticed that is appearing almost everywhere is poverty. You know, parents most of the times marry off their children or their daughters because they feel these girls are giving them a burden financially, educating them, feeding them, clothing. So they feel like whenever they are marrying off these girls, they're reducing the financial strain these girls are putting on to them. The fact that already they are poor, they cannot afford, they decide to marry them off, thinking that in marriage, their spouses will have to take care of all these responsibilities.
And probably even gain.
Sorry?
They lose a child in form of relieving themselves of a burden, but they also gain.
They also get, yeah, that is how some of them will look at a marriage as a financial, a financial breakthrough, whereby you find that the dowry that is given there is, it is seen as a financial, you know, victory in some societies in Uganda. So they try to, that is why, no, let me just leave that because I might be quoted as someone who is attacking a certain tribe. But you find that for the financial gains that come with early marriages, especially traditional marriages or customary marriages, parents find it okay to just marry off their children before the exact age. And also there are some cultural norms whereby these cultures feel it is an honor to marry off a child with an age before 19 or 18. And so they want to maintain this honor in society, that how will they say my child, they are 17 and they have no spouse as yet. So some cultures attribute this to having you know, societal expectations that will uphold their status culture-wise, that all my daughters are married off, and also the social norms. You know, we experience a lot of, when we listen to a song of Pastor Mugembe, and he said, who cares, you're not yet married, who cares, you've not given birth, who cares? But there is a way society has branded girls that there is a certain age they're supposed to be married off. Someone finds and they're like, hey, you're not married, why? I'm like, I feel I'm still young. You're still young at that age, even when they don't know how old you are. So society dictates that, some of the societies dictate that a child must be married at a certain age, and that is how you find that most of these girls are married off very early. That leads to early marriages. And also we can talk about gender inequality, whereby most people prefer educating the boy child vis-a-vis the girl child. And society decides the fate of the girl. That is how they end up getting married, because they feel the destiny, the fate of a girl, the plight of a young girl may not be as important as the destiny of a man or a boy child. So to ensure the chastity, to uphold this, they prefer sending the boys to school and then marrying off the children. Hence we have the early marriages, and also a strong lack of education. You know, when a girl is not educated or when a child is not educated, there are not so many options they can do with themselves. And that is how you find themselves getting married at tender ages. There is nothing they are doing with themselves. They cannot access formal employment. And they think that being married off, the parents think marrying off these children will actually protect them from society, I'm looking for the right term, not to sound so pessimistic, but from society degradation of their chastity. So they feel as long as they're not in school, so this one is just an idle person. Why don't we marry off? At least the become Mrs. So and so. That is how they end up. And this for protection. You know, there's some societies that are really unstable, and some parents feel when my child is married off, the man will protect this child. From maybe violence or rape, not forgetting that even in marriage, there are some things that take place like domestic violence. Even homicides do take place.
And marital
so
rape.
not being aware, not being sensitized about the consequences of marrying off children very early, at times exposes them to such vices because they think having premarital sex when they're not married, it exposes them to rape and all that. So isolation by the society. So with them not knowing, they send these children to early marriages. And we can also look at the legal framework. You know, in some countries, it is stipulated that as long as you're not yet 18, you cannot get married. But then there are some legal rules. For example, it could be religion. It could be the religion and also the tradition. In some religions, they're like, if someone comes to me and they want to marry off my child, if maybe they're about above 10, I can marry them off. And we've heard about these instances whereby, you know, such instances, that the law is there. And it stipulates what was, but then there is the religion, conflict of interest, and that is how you find that there is also early marriages, also lack of enough empowerment for the girl child, a lot of factors, Indeed,
and I thank you for giving us that detailed background, because it says a lot. And now one would also now focus on how, and I would love to pick both of your perspectives, starting with you, Robert. How do you think this affects the girl? But in any case, do you think it also affects the boy?
Well, statistics show that 6% of the boys of the same age are married off.
How much?
6%.
6%?
Yes.
Boys?
So, boys. So it's
I wonder what that conversation looks like, marrying off a boy.
A 10-year marriage?
Yes, so
Robert.
6%. I don't know, but that is what statistics show. And not in any other country, but here in Uganda.
Okay.
So these things still happen. And also in those prone rural areas, that is where you hear a woman who has some little money around married like a young boy, as to say. But first, let's look at the effects that you asked. I'll look at the major one. One, why do you think our country came up with a constitution and banned? Because our constitution prohibits marriage of girls below the age of 18. Both the constitution and statutory laws prohibit that. And we have quite a number of laws. I'll be looking through them with permission of Julie later. But let me just start with the effects. One, when a girl is married off before the age of 18, for me I would even propose 24, but let's take it at 18. This young girl, much as she may look very mature, because one time I was discussing with some man who said, I quote, it's a Luganda saying, teritoke toliengera, meaning you can't find a banana, you know, matoke, that is ripe, yet it's young. Now he was translating this, but that by the time the girl begins her menstrual cycle, she's ready, she's ripe. So, but the biggest challenge is we safeguard these girls first and foremost for biological reasons. The body is not yet ready. Yes, she could have begun her menstrual cycle, but the body is not yet ready.
I mean, the imagination of a young girl who has started her menses in primary school and you're subjecting her to marriage, that's absurd.
Believing nature God has made her ready at that time. So who are you, son of man? Yes, who are you, son of man? And that goes back to the religious and customary issues. But the most and the biggest reason was her body, a girl of P5, a girl of 15 years, her body is not yet ready to carry pregnancy. Even the process of giving birth, her bones, her pelvis, and all the biology concerned there, she's just not ready. So that was the #1 reason that the body has not grown. And no wonder when you look at statistics, how many of these young girls die? The numbers are so high. We continue to say in Uganda, every day 14 women die while giving birth to new life. But let's go back and analyze which percentage of the 14 women are actually women below 18 years or girls below 18 years.
As it is, 18%
yes,
are pregnant, account for the pregnancies.
But how many of those go into labor and return?
Annually, rather, yes.
Annually. Now,
neonatal deaths.
Now, let's also look at the other issue as an effect. There we've looked at the body is not ready, the death as an effect, you lose this young girl. But let's also look at the circle of poverty. Believe you me, most of these young girls that give birth, because they are not yet empowered, she's still young, she's not completed her education. She's still young, she has nothing to offer her children. She becomes a mother, a child mother. No employment, no nothing.
No education.
No education, no empowerment. So there is a chain of poverty that even the child this child gives birth to comes out to meet the world of a mother who is totally helpless, but also a mother who has no ability to reason maturely, because in our constitution, the age of consent is 18. So this girl below the age of 18, even if they commit offenses, they are not tried under our laws in open courts. They are seen as children. They are not arrested in prisons. They are juveniles. They are taken to rehabilitation centers. So this is a person who cannot sit and discuss sense and plan for their offsprings. Then lastly, in the interest of time, the effect of early marriages most of the times brings in domestic violence. Because this man wants to reason with a wife.
Let's even look at who is marrying this girl. How old is the person?
And it's a shame that most of the times, the people that marry these children have ever intervened in one case. This is what happened. Our brothers, the Muslims, forgive me, those that don't do this, but you have those that do this. This Haji visited a friend, and there were a number of daughters there. Said, Hajj, Allah yakuwa, abana Allah yakuwa. Excitement he gives. Now, when a man has a wife, there is a level of thinking and responsibility. Now, what happened? This man would come home, this young girl has not cooked. Maybe she has been on TV, she has been playing.
With the other teenagers.
Yes, with the teenagers. She has been. Now, domestic violence stems. The man is back home as a husband, asking for food, but this child...
She has not even showered.
She's simply being a child.
Simply being a child.
Yeah.
You know, her interests do not match with you now. Domestic violence, even where a mature person will say, time for me to keep quiet. This child, for her, she will reason like a child. Hey, you would have eaten that way. You would, because she's now domestic violence stems and broken marriages, yet there are children in these marriages. So for the time being, I can say those are the main.
Heartbreaking indeed. Well, if you're just joining in, we are looking at the persistent issue of child marriages in Uganda. It's a problem and it's persisting. Why is it persisting? It's what we are trying to look into. But you can also be part of the show, 0709602592. Get in touch and share your experience, what you see, where you stay, where you
what
reside.
you're going through.
What you're going through, very well, thank you.
You could have been married very early. We have quite a number of children.
Yes, indeed. You could have experienced early childhood marriage, and it's part of your life. It's a story that is behind you, you've left it, but it's there. It could be nice to hear from you and learn a lot from you. Definitely, there's a lot you need and you have to offer to our nation. Joan, I'd like to also, in just a minute, I'd also love to hear your perspective on what the effects are. Robert has elaborated in a very detailed manner, but let me pick from your mind as well a different perspective of what effects this comes with to a girl child. But then again, in your view, are boy children also affected by this?
Okay, one, teenage pregnancies, because when you marry off someone who is not 18 as yet, there is teenage pregnancy, and what comes with teenage pregnancy, there are a lot of factors and a lot of consequences that come with pregnancies, and also then the government has to deal with early marriages, and then later on deal with the teenager pregnancies, and becomes a bit overwhelming to the society, to the parents, and to the victim, and also to everyone who is concerned. And also early marriages, I think at times they do lead to broken societies. That is how at times we find that the family is broken. We have what they term as single mothers. And these ladies or these girls end up looking at their children alone or taking them to...
Actually, here you're having child mothers.
Not single, but child.
You, the Julie, but child mothers.
Child mothers.
Child single mothers. Wow.
Yeah,
No, child single mothers.
Yeah, child single mothers. And we also have a neglect. You find that some of once these girls cannot really sustain the marriages, they are sent away. And there is neglect. The man may even marry someone else and find that they are not even receiving the enough welfare they're supposed to be receiving, or even the responsibility. And this child mother, what kind of child is she bringing up? Because she does not know what she's doing.
She's equally ignorant.
Yes, in most cases, if they are married or far away, accessing their parental home could be a bit hard. So she doesn't know anything. She's not been a mother before. She has no one to guide her on what to do. So she might be broken. The fact that it could even have been a forced one, because the early marriage can be a liking of that victim, but some that are just forced there. The trauma that comes with this, we are going to have to deal with a broken society, and in the end, that is how we end up with drug abuse. We end up with prostitution, because this mother wants to feed the baby, wants to get something. That is in case, you know, there are some men who marry off these who marry the young girls, but they cannot even provide. They are drunkards. All they know is to go get alcohol.
In there, let's chip in with the law, because I know the law deals with a 360 degree of all issues. Robert, take us through what the law says against child marriages in Uganda.
First I want to commend Uganda, because we have all the laws and we can be a case study globally. I want to begin with the national policy, the National Child Policy 2020. Now the policy, this is the National Child Policy on Elimination of Gender-Based Violence. That one was developed in 2016. Then the National Action Plan on Elimination of Gender-Based Violence in Uganda, that is 2016 to 2021. We have the National Adolescents Reproductive Health. We have the Health Policy 2004. Listen to all these laws.
So those are policies.
These are just policies. Now I'm coming to laws.
Okay.
Then you have, we have Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development Strategic Plan. They also have a plan 2020, 2021. It ran to 2024, 2025, and the recently renewed national strategy to end child marriage and teenage pregnancy. That is 2022, 2023, 2026. It will run up to 2026. But also furthermore, the Constitution and Parliament of Uganda enacted a wide range of laws that explicitly provide for protection of children against sexual violence. Now, these include the Penal Code Act, that is a CAP 120 as amended, the Child Amendment Act, that is 2016, the Anti-Pornography Act 2014, are among others. And our Constitution is very clear that anyone who impregnates, because now that also covers marriage, you know, a girl below the age of 18, this person, if convicted, goes for life imprisonment. If it came in by any way of defilement, because also sometimes rape and defilement end up into marriage. if you've noticed in Uganda.
Yes, yes.
You know?
You have to marry her off by force.
Yes, the family will tell you you've raped our daughter.
Especially if she gets pregnant.
Now she's pregnant. What are you going to do with her? Pay dowry, we end things here. And the young brothers are jubilating because they know when you pay dowry, there is wealth coming in. They have what they will give when it's their time to marry.
You're creating space for us.
Yes, I was watching a documentary in South Sudan where one girl can go for 200 cows. One girl can go for 300 cows. Now the brothers push for their sisters to go into marriage so that the father has cows, their cows home. So that when this
is merely property.
Yes, so when this young boy meets a girl she wants, the family has cows.
Cows to give to the
So now looking at all the laws we have, all the policies you've read, all the laws we have, some are one dating up to today, up to 2026. What are they doing? Why is the problem persisting? Because it looks like we're doing more and less is impacting.
First, as our common problem in Uganda is we have weak enforcement. That is
good laws, weak enforcement.
Good laws, weak enforcement. Then two, corruption and bribery. Let me tell you, in Uganda, if the offense meets a high sentence or penalty, it is the most attractive offense to handle by judges, to handle by lawyers, to handle by police. Julie and Joan and people watching us, let me be very open to you. When a case in Uganda attracts a high fine or a high sentence, every police officer will yearn for it, every lawyer will yearn for it, every judge would want to sit in that case because it is fatty. The Njogera Inaku is why they say it is mathavu. Because everyone knows there is deep money. If, for example, police arrest some family marrying off a young girl, the father knows you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. He would sell a plot of land. They would sell anything to say that that case does not see the light of day. So bribery, weak enforcement, and our policemen and our law enforcers, because if no one has come to report, most of the time it starts to inform. Community has become complacent. A person will tell you, my mother gave birth at 15 years. You know? So it is, we are used, we've accepted, we've become complacent. Then lastly that Joan talked about, that is both customary and religious. You know, in Uganda, we have something we fear. Hey, don't talk about culture. Don't talk about religion. Have you noticed? They will tell you these days they have the table you're shaking.
Even when they are abusing human rights.
Even when they're abusing. I remember one time we had a minister, I think she was Honorable Peace Mutuzo. She came out and talked about certain
cultural practice.
Certain cultural practices. My God, it was war. Don't talk about, for you didn't. So we fear talk about culture, we fear talk about religion. However oppressive they are.
Right. But I think still about Roberts, I think there's just not enough harmonization between the law and even the parliamentarians and government officials who've just spoken about the minister. Do they understand the implications of some laws on early child marriages and also harmonizing the tradition, the religious, and then the law? Because like you've said, as someone would say, by law you've defiled someone or you cannot marry.
But you know, I think by harmonizing, if you think about it, back in the day, some things could have worked in line with culture and religion. But in this day and age, you can't tell me that FGM, female genital mutilation, is normal in this day and age.
To my culture, it could be okay. This is the culture that I'm absorbed into.
Yes.
And I'm okay with it. Me, the person.
There are men in Sebei region who do not, despite that thing being outdated. Because why did female genital mutilation come in place? The men in Sebei were warriors. Now, they would go to war and come back when their women have cheated. So they decided to go to that particular part that arouses interest, remove it, so that their women would not have interest.
But
for
Robert,
sex. Now that is outdated.
Someone might argue we are okay with our culture. You who is not even a Sebei, where do you
your
get
culture?
Because
these things are outdated.
And the reason is because it's the people who argue it's okay are not the ones who
are in the culture,
who are victimized. They are not the ones who spill that blood when their genitalia is cut. They are not the ones
who are not okay.
Sorry?
Those ones who are saying it is not okay.
Those who are saying it's not okay. It's the male. They're not the ones subjected to that pain.
If my wife went through this.
You know, they're not the ones subjected to that pain, but a young girl whose genitalia is cut off, something that's so abnormal.
But then there's something that women came out and supported. Actually, even female genital mutilation, it's not performed by men in Sebei region.
Yes, it's supported.
It is performed by women. Those elders.
So, you know, that is why the contradiction comes from my culture is saying something else, the law is saying something else, and my religion is saying, look at circumcision. Some men, health-wise, they see it is okay. Culture-wise, the Bagish will find it okay. But there are some cultures or even personal interests. They don't want to be circumcised.
Now, time is not our best friend at this point, but one thing for sure is this issue is persisting. And I think Robert shared something that is rather very profound. Ugandan laws are many, very beautifully written, in fact, admired by other countries. But what are they doing? Corruption is still a dire problem in implementing these laws, and I think it's a very problem that is persisting, the issue of child marriages and many others at that.
But really, some of these laws are really working, but you reach the police station, the complainant is, we've harmonized with the mother. Let us, what is the police supposed to do?
Which at the end of the day is in line with corruption. Anyways, this conversation has to come to its end, but thank you so much for being on the show and choosing to watch UBC TV this morning. Up next is GMU Tourism Express. We do have business. John will be coming through from the business desk as well, and I'll be coming back with the agenda. Robert will be coming back with GMU Extra, but we also have the sports update on the show, so there's still a lot in store for you. Stay tuned. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Exercise can't be sustained. Eating can't be stopped. It's even harder to lose weight. Come and give it a try. Ginshikang L-carnitine chromium capsules, plant extract, scientific ratio, take 3 capsules each time. The active ingredient accelerates fat burning, eat twice a day, don't take a detour. Weight loss starts now. Ginshikang L-carnitine with chromium capsules helps you stay in shape. Please follow medical advice when taking this product. For more information, visit our website www.hgo.com or call 0800 335555.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Brought to you by Uniquely Ours. Explore Uganda.
We are still at Immaculate Heart Girls School, Nyachibale, and we are within the school museum. In this segment, we are going to be talking about what more you have to find in the school museum. Welcome on the Good Morning Uganda Tourism Express, and my name is Zakia Lucky. I have seen quite familiar items like we did see at Brims. Back then, I'm getting to find a gramophone here, which is quite different from what I saw there. Typewriters, the monitor, but we are yet to understand how these are getting to exist in here. And I think it's a very good thing for a school to store this, because students are getting a chance to learn about this, unlike us who got to know about this probably in the field, and there is someone else like you who has not even had a chance to see these or even get to know how they operate. It's not just about those artifacts, but we have also other items that do represent cultures, and also some of the artworks that these students get to see. So stick around as we get to interview one of the students that is going to tell us about these items.
My name is Agaba Esther, the President UNESCO Club Immaculate Heart, and I will be taking you through this cultural segment of our museum. So here we have very many artifacts. This is called, okay, in English it's the mota and the pesto, but then in our language it's called the shekuro. This is where we form some of the flour that we use for cooking. Then here we have the containers. They can be used for soup, for example, stew, and they can also be used to hold cow ghee or what we call a shabwe. Then here we have the traditional baskets. Okay, they are for holding meals, let's say the traditional karo. They are called endiro. Then here, this part, we're trying to depict the segment of hunting. So here we have one of the horns that were gotten from the hunted animals. And here we have the ankle bells. These ones, they are either tied on the dogs while hunting so that they can be able to find the animals that are in hiding. And then they are also tied on the cows, but you cannot tie them on the cows unless they are over 100 in number. So you tie them on the cows for easy identification. Then these are the remains of a buffalo that was hunted. So in this part, we're trying to talk about how hunting was done in the old days. And so these are the materials that were used. Then when we come to this sector, we're trying to depict the Chichiga culture. So here we have one of these calabashes, and they're used for holding the traditional drinks, for example, omuramba, entudire, and ushera. Then we also have entara. This is for winnowing, let's say sorghum or millet. Then here we have the straw hats. In the Hima and Ankole culture, whenever they used to go to graze, there would be a lot of sunshine, okay? So they made these hats out of straw from the swamp, and then they would put them on their heads just like this, so that the direct sunlight, the direct heat does not affect them. So these are the straw hats. Then this place, we're trying to depict the technology of Immaculate Heart. So this is a gramophone, and it is a musical artifact. But one of the main reasons as to why we brought it into this school, into this museum, is because it was given to us by the late Mr. Ntakarima Zemaiko, who started up the founder of this museum. So it was put here as a monument because of him. Then as the school started in 1969, the technology that we used to use for, let's say, reports or examinations, we had these typewriters. So as per now, they are not in use because there has been a new technology evolving, and right now we are using these keyboards and even the laptops. So on this part, we are trying to depict the evolution, right, of technology in Immaculate Heart. Then also as the school started, we had these kinds of radios. As per now, I don't think they are really very common, because now we can even use the ones that are on phone or on laptops or whatsoever, even the internet. And here we use these monitors, but as per now we have evolved, but we want to keep them here in the museum so that we can keep closer to our roots and remind ourselves where we came from. Then here we have a display of the telephone evolution in Immaculate Heart. So we started from this sector going forth, and as per now we use the payphones and the smartphones. So we wanted to keep them here, okay, to carry on the culture so that even as the next generation comes, they will be able to continue using them.
These were used in school?
Yes. Yeah, right. So these plates, they were used a very long time ago. So in the previous year, okay, in the old years before colonialism, even these plates were not there. They came from the white world, okay? So before, they used to use banana fibers to hold their food instead of these plates, but when the whites came, they brought these plates. So right here we have these are the metallic ones. First we were using banana fibers, then we went to the metallic ones, then after that we evolved now to the ceramics. So here, down this side, we have the projects of the new curriculum students in Immaculate Heart, and here they are using bottle tops to show environmental conservation. So even here they use the bottle tops. So we are trying to show that we do not need to dispose these things badly, okay? We can use them for something very profitable. Even these are also projects, the bottles. So basically that's what we're trying to talk about. Then this side, at the back, here is the sector for music, dance and drama. So Immaculate Heart being a multicultural society, all these instruments are not only for one culture. For example, this adungu and this one, they're from the eastern side of Uganda, and they are used for music. So Immaculate Heart, having all these cultures, okay, we are trying to show that we embrace all of them. So we use them in music, dance and drama, we use them on Culture Day, we use them on every other occasion that we get a chance to use them. So here, we have the akogos, or what we could call the thumb pianos, and they're also part of the music instruments that evolved from the East. Then here, we have the ingalabi, it's a long drum from Buganda, and then we have the shakers, we have the panpipes, and we have the tube fiddles. So this part of music, dance and drama, we're trying to show that as Immaculate Heart, we embrace all these cultures. So here, we have an ancestral stool. So on this stool, this is, okay, around here, there is always a hide that it is circular, okay? So that circular motion signifies that the reign of this person who is being given headship in the family, it has to continue, okay? So this traditional four-legged stool, number one, it is only used by the heir, and the heir is given authority, headship, especially when the head of the family has died. So to show that the reign will continue, they choose an heir from the sons and the daughters. So this hide that we see around here, as you can see, it is circular in shape. So this circular motion signifies the fact that they want the reign to continue. They want it to continue flowing, so that even when this person passes away, the next person will carry on the mantle and the reign will continue forever. Then this shield, when the heir is given this shield, he's supposed to use it for protection. It is a symbol of protection and authority, so that if anything whatsoever happens to the family, he'll be able to protect. Then the spear, it is first of all a symbol of bravery. So when you hold it like this, it's supposed to be held from the middle, and when this part is facing the people, that means it is signifying peace. But if you put the sharp side this side instead, that means we are trying to show that we are trying to fight the enemy. But in this case, we are just bringing the heir, okay? So when you hold this spear, it shows that you are brave and that you have been chosen as the heir. So these are symbols of power that are given to the heir. Also, there is this one, and most times, in most occasions, it was used during grazing, so that okay, when they are taking the cows back home. So it is also, in some cases, believed to be a protection symbol from any other superstitious practices. So it is also given to the heir, and words of majesty, okay, proclamations are said upon this heir before he is given the role.
Okay, Esther actually makes a very good tour guide, and she's also the president of UNESCO, but then I'm wondering what UNESCO is and how she got to learn all of these things that she's been taking us through. Maybe you could tell us.
Thank you so much. UNESCO in full is United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, and I've been in this club since my senior 1. So in senior 5, I was elected the president, and UNESCO, one of the parts being in charge of culture in Immaculate Heart, we are in charge of the Culture Day that always takes place on Women's Day. Then we're also in charge of the museum. Okay, even the founder of this museum, the late Mr. Ntakarima Zemaiko and teacher Salome, they are the ones who made this museum. So the way I got to learn about all this stuff, obviously in this generation we do not have much of this information, but when I came to Immaculate Heart, I was very exposed to all this stuff. You know, there is MDD, there is Culture Day, there is sports and games, and so I got to learn each and everything that you see here, and I got to also find a way to make them useful. So UNESCO is in charge of the museum, and we would like to pass on a message to the youth out there that they should try to keep closer to their roots. You know, they should not let this culture fade away. So basically that's what UNESCO does, and Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Amazing. You should stay closer to your roots, and well done, the late Takarimazi, who was actually our entertainment minister, and Madame Salome back then, because it is you that have made this generation get a chance, especially in the Immaculate Heart community, to learn about these things. There are so many out there that have missed out on this one, that we have schools that probably don't have this, and that is how you're losing out on your roots. So we are still coming in again for another segment. Stick around as we continue to explore the artifacts and the culture in Immaculate Heart Girls' School.
Brought to you by Uniquely Ours. Explore Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning once again. Now, if you're one of the 1 million Ugandans who are worried about the economic uncertainty of the country, Bank of Uganda has a message for you today, so stick around. But first, welcome back from Tourism Express. Indeed, museums in schools serve as living laboratories for history, science, and heritage that foster engaging learners beyond the classroom, and hence supporting the curriculum. Good morning again. My name is Joan N. Murungi. It is now time for our economic press, and commencing with Uganda's economic environment that is characterized by heightened uncertainty, prompting a cautious monetary policy stance. The governor of the Bank of Uganda, Michael Atingi-Igo, says the Monetary Policy Committee has maintained the central bank rate at 9.75%. Here is the report.
At 9. The Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Uganda has maintained the central bank rate at 9.75% for the month of February. The decision followed a critical assessment of both domestic and global economic conditions, according to the Governor, Bank of Uganda, Michael Ating-Igo.
The MPC kept the central bank rate unchanged at 9.75%. The CBR band at plus minus 2 percentage points, with the rediscount rate and the bank rate set at 3 and 4 percentage points above the CBR, respectively, resulting in a rediscount rate of 12.75% and a bank rate of 13.75%.
Inflation has maintained below the medium-term target of 5%, reflecting the impact of prudent monetary policy, coordination with fiscal policy, a stable exchange rate, declining global inflation, and favorable food and energy prices. Despite a moderation in economic growth in the 2 quarters to September 2025, high-frequency indicators and forecasts point to stronger economic activity in the quarter to December 2025 and in the second half of the financial year.
So our monetary policy is very strong. And what do? We have very strong tools. The tools are many, we can't explain them here and extremely technical, but we have very strong tools that manage money supply. And you have seen that even during elections, it is very unusual. It is extremely surprising that even on the day of election, our shilling instead gained.
Current monetary stance adequately addresses all the issues in terms of allowing sufficient monetary aggregates growth, while at the same time making sure that there is no inflationary pressure arising from that.
However, risks to the inflation outlook, both upside and downside, remain elevated.
On the downside, Risks include a sharper than projected slowdown in domestic economic activity, a deceleration in global growth stemming from trade-related shocks and heightened uncertainty, and a decline in commodity prices with these inflationary effects.
Over the medium term, economic growth is expected to strengthen further, rising to an average of around 8%. This outlook is underpinned by accelerated public investment, oil-related and infrastructure development, governmental initiatives, improving global economic conditions, prudent monetary policy, and increased private sector activity. Dennis Igoa for UBC.
The governor of the Bank of Uganda, they are asserting that the prevailing policy stance remains appropriate for economic activity to take place in Uganda. Moving on from our built environment news, the CEO of the National Housing and Construction Company, Kenneth Kaijuka, has called for increased budget allocations to improve housing infrastructure. Now, during the company's annual Thanksgiving prayers, Kaijuka noted that while this sector is not included in the 10-fold national strategy, government is committed to financing 4,000 housing units a year. Let's take a look.
Consensual borrowing. Uganda's housing deficit stands at 2.5 million units, while the private sector is narrowing the gap. With a median monthly income of 190,000 Ugandan shillings as of 2020, according to the National Development Plan, 96% of Ugandans cannot afford the cheapest, formally constructed house by a private developer. The National Housing and Construction Company wants government to allow consensual borrowing at low interest rates to enable investment in affordable housing with repayment spread over longer periods.
In Kampala, you need about 300,000 homes. Countrywide, like we said, on an annual, you need to build about 1.5 million housing units. In the National Development Plan, they have provided 4,000 units per year. We hope this funding can be made available.
With banking entities increasingly focusing on commercial lending, affordable housing has forced most urban dwellers to live in unplanned structures with poor roads, drainage and sanitation. During the annual Thanksgiving prayers for the National Housing Corporation in Kampala, the Chief Executive Officer, Kenneth Kaijuka, highlighted on the need for intervention.
As a developing country, now the houses you see in Kampala, most of them they are shanty houses, mud and water, some of them grass thatched. These are not part of the housing for the future. Permanent housing, tiled houses with power, with water running, with sewer systems, then the deficit goes more to about 7 million housing units. And therefore the target must be the 7 million housing units that will take us to the future.
Kaijuka also notes that the current legislative framework does not regulate private sector players in the construction industry.
There is no machinery that supervises this housing countryside. There is housing in the rural establishment at homestead level, but there is also housing in the urban centers. A bit of regulation comes in the urban centers, but the entire construction framework rests with the developer, the family. They identify an architect, they do plans, they start mobilizing materials, and because their financing muscle is weak, so they compromise on some of the input material.
Meanwhile, Archbishop Kazimba Mugalu, who led the service, called upon Ugandans to center their work on God as a foundation for national progress.
God should be priority number one in whatever we do. So we should always have a moment and say, God, I commit this vehicle in your hands.
And of course, let's take a quick look at how the Uganda shilling is doing against the other currencies, and beginning off with the US dollar that sold, that is by the 9th of February 2026. The dollar bought at 3,554.36 and sold at 3,564.36. And by midday, the rate at which the dollar was buying was 3,554.36. 3,564.45 and sold at 3,564.45 still. And then by close of business, the dollar bought at 3,554.50, slightly higher than it was at midday, and sold at 3,564.50. Whereas the Great British Pound sold at 4,855.44, and that was the buying rate, and sold at 4,870.53. The euro bought at 4,230.56 and sold at 4,243.18. The Kenyan shilling bought at 27.53 and shot up for the selling price of 27.67. And the Tanzanian shilling bought at 1.36 and sold at 1.40. Whereas the South African rand bought at 222.76 and sold at 223.47. And of course, we'll bring you a deeper insights of business here on GMO Business from the entire business desk throughout the week. My name is Joanne N. Moronji. Thank you for accompanying us this morning. Coming up is the agenda with Jolie. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah yo, baby dondolo.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks, Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000 or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21 hash and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Exercise can't be sustained. Eating can't be stopped. It's even harder to lose weight. Come and give it a try. Ginshikang L-carnitine chromium capsules. Plant extract, scientific ratio. Take 3 capsules each time. The active ingredient accelerates fat burning, eat twice a day. Don't take a detour. Weight loss starts now. Ginshikang L-carnitine with chromium capsules helps you stay in shape. Please follow medical advice when taking this product. For more information, visit our website www.hgo.com or call 0800 335555.
Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala. We have to change the political culture in this country, really. Who has bewitched Ugandans?
I want to assure you, as government, we shall do whatever it takes to ensure that Ugandans are safe.
We have conversations that have analysis, explanation.
This law society, this union of theirs, because they want a job everywhere, they want to be this, they want to be that, they want... No. We know it's a union.
You cannot be making a road, bitumen grade 1, in Congo for 5 billion.
But not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth.
The argument that the General Court Martial is responsible for peace and stability is without basis, either in law or in fact.
We have been told how Napoleon was a great orator. Now, Napoleon cannot help me get food. They told me combine harvest in Saskatchewan. I don't know where Saskatchewan is. This is a geography we're taught. Instead of teaching me how to preserve Mabera forest, they're teaching me about Rhineland. This is a problem we got. We cannot run away from it.
Right now, you hear very disgusting stories of members of parliament. Instead of discussing the details of loans, they ask for their cuts.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Juko. Yo. Wachiko. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Welcome back from the business desk with Joan. It's time for the agenda. My name is Julie F. Nantava, and you are watching UBC TV. We come to you live from the Nile Avenue. This morning, we are looking at matters education and schools, as it is schools commence today for term 1, and in particular, security and safety of learners being a top priority. Now, yesterday during the weekly security press brief, the Uganda Police indeed did the justice of making sure that parents were urged and guardians to prioritize the safety of learners as schools reopened for term 1 today. Police spokesperson AC Pichetuma Rusoke said that child safety is a shared responsibility amongst parents, schools, transport operators, and other stakeholders in there. He shared quite a number of nuggets, but this morning we're definitely looking at the general security and safety of learners being a top priority for all stakeholders. And to have this conversation with me is Juma Mwamula, who is the General Secretary of the Uganda Private Teachers Union. Always a pleasure having you. Good morning.
Thank you, my sister. A very good morning to you, management, and to our viewers out there. A very, very good morning to the teachers who are set to receive children at this moment, and the parents who are struggling. I know later in the day we are going to have a lot of stampede of people trying to move here and they are taking back their children. We want to wish you the very best.
Right.
To the children who have been going through this very long holiday, about 2 months. Isn't it over 2 months? Yes, we want to congratulate you upon the completion. We want to invite you now into a new chapter of serious business, now school, and very seriously. So,
indeed.
Yes.
And if you talk about the stampede, as I came to work in the morning, vehicles were already on the road as early as that.
You can imagine.
And someone made a comment that during holidays, you do not see a lot of cars in Kampala. And
that is very true.
Until it's school time, it's when you see most vehicles.
That is very true. When schools break, you actually feel there is some change. And now that we have started, we are going to see this. Today, maybe the whole of this week is all going to have a clear indication of school-going programs.
Indeed. Yeah. Let's look at the practicability. Practically speaking, what does a safe and secure school mean to all of us as stakeholders?
School, in the ordinary context, has been taken as a place where people go and learn. And so we see children who leave their homes, who leave their communities, and go and converge in one central place for purposes of being facilitated to learn. Speaking about safe and secure is speaking about a safe stay free from any dangers, free from any threats. I mean something that give guarantee to health, to security of life and property of the learners, of the teachers, of the people in the community of the school setup. And so I would assume that that is an environment that has a cordial kind of environment. When a learner goes, he feels free, he feels safe, he's actually free from, first of all, the harassment of their own peers. Previously, at the time of our schooling, and I think even up to now it is happening, there were some schools that were widely known for bullying. So children would even get to school and start acting as if they are not there to go to study, but perhaps to cause havoc or bully to their friends. So we expect that a free school should be devoid of such. Should also be such an environment where teachers do not take the advantage of their supremacy in terms of age, power, and so on to exert, to inflict pain, to inflict torture to the learners, and so on and so forth. But speaking about the safety of children, like the theme was at the start, it does not necessarily go confine itself in the setup of a school. I want to believe that it even is a longer journey that starts from the time when somebody is moving from home up to when he's into school, and also the stay at school. Today, like we have just said at the start, we are going to have a lot of havoc on our roads. And as people are struggling to make their way on the roads with that very much traffic that is unregulated and so on and so forth, there are also some other people who want to take advantage of that stampede. So we are speaking about how do we safeguard our children from the self-seekers who want to take advantage of this child who is walking on a very rowdy road with a baggage of whatever is carrying at school, and so exhausted, vulnerable, and instead of helping, you want to take advantage and perhaps steal from him or her. That is what is going to constitute our this season. So if you visit, like for example, the parks, tax park and so on and so forth, with the stampede that is there, with that kind of rush that is there, there are some people who one would act as if is actually helping, when actually intend to steal from you. Those are the people who you see, I can help you carry this stuff from this point to another point where you are supposed to board the taxi that go to your school. But as soon as you get hold of that item, he wants to rush off and disappear in thin air. All that is what is speaking to our safety. Then there is one serious thing that I think is an issue we should place into the face of the government. The issue of disorganization in our road systems, in our transport systems. Today, even if it is a walkable distance, you actually fear for your child to walk on his or her own, because we have those borders that are running unregulatedly. Whether traffic lights, whether other people who are road users are going at a slow speed, somebody think he must drive at the highest of his machine. We have tax stones who are parking everywhere they feel convenient. Somebody will drive very fast and in the middle of the road he stops because he wants to pick the next passenger, or he wants to pull off the next passenger, something like that. All those cause very, very, very serious impact and threat to our children. You fear for this child how he or she can cross the road simply because of the manner of indiscipline of many of the motorists on the road. Just this morning when I was coming, I was actually wondering and laughing at myself. You just get to one junction point, and whereas somebody realizes that he has nowhere to go because there is already a queue of vehicles that are not even moving, he's not afraid to come and block the road, such that even the other people who have a passage, their road is clear, are blocked just by this one person who wants to join a queue that is not even moving. That is the level of selfishness, the level of indiscipline and lack of self-control that we possess as motorists on the Uganda road. So all these are awaiting our children, and they speak to the safety. We are going to have some of those people who think that they must make maximum profit, maximum monies from this season. Now that there are so many passengers on the road, if I make about 4 trips from Kampala to Kayunga, I will have made this amount of money. Therefore, when the taxi is full, I must drive it at its fastest. So it put people at threat. Just a few days ago, we learned about an unfortunate happening. I think it was on Mitiana Road, where there is a head-on collision, and so many people really got involved into such. The same can happen for as long as our people do not have self-refrain and self-control. That situation is even exacerbated by the nature. I don't know really, Uganda, we need prayers and we need leadership that is assertive. Today, on our roads, everybody who drives a UG believes that he has the right of way. Everybody who possesses a big car believes that he or she has a right of way. And those who are also driving good cars, these new cars, all those. So I mean the level of disorganization, the level of impunity, the level of lawlessness is immeasurable.
Right.
So we need to reflect on this. We need a coercive hand that brings order and discipline, such that we can guarantee safety. First of all, for ourselves, but very importantly for our children.
For our children, indeed. Very profound at that. And I love that you've painted that detailed picture for one who is not even yet a parent to understand the reality on ground.
Sure.
And to be that Ugandan who gives that hand in case you find a child who is stuck on the crazy roads of Kampala, or the crazy roads of Uganda, wherever you are, you're able to help that child, be the good steward for that child, even if you're not their parent or not yet a parent, to put yourself in that shoe. Now, let's look at some of the common safety risks learners face inside and out of school, of the school environment that you have been able to witness in your tenure of experience.
Of course, today, we have talked about those issues of accident that are going to happen or that may happen, especially as the children are going back to school. That is one very serious thing. Lately, there has also been another vice that is growing and very steadily, yet very risky, the thing of abductions. We are having children of varied ages, from very juvenile to those ones who are fairly grown up. There are many of our children who are at risk of being lied, to be taken away, to be swayed away from the direction of school, simply because somebody thinks that when you hold the hostage of this child, he can be able to ask for a ransom. I mean, that is a possibility because it has happened in Uganda here. And so as parents, as we are looking forward to these days, we should not imagine that it can never come. And what that speaks to us is that kindly find off time to escort your child to the final destination. Do not imagine that this person always does it. If I place this person in a border, it is all safe. If I place this child on a taxi, it is all safe. Take off your time and escort your child, place him or her into the hands of somebody who you know is actually responsible and answerable. So issues of abduction is one other serious thing. And you see, it is a cross-cutting thing. Even adults of our age and beyond can be victims of such circumstances.
Yes. And you know, when you say abduction, I'm reminded of the things I usually see during the school period. I mean, you can imagine the time we start the show here. That means we are here very, very early. So at a time such as that, you find a child, primary school going age, and they are alone.
Maybe they are only 2 and they are walking their way to school. And these are some of the things that we expect the school.
They are alone on that road.
We expect the ministry to help. We have had a revision of our curriculum. We should also have a revision on the timing, and this should be enforced very, very, very seriously. Because what happens, those people come on TVs like this and say, you see, effective now, we should not expect children to be on the road very early in the morning and so on. But their own schools are doing the same.
Wow.
If you went to visit their own schools, children are reporting as early as 5. Meanwhile, here on TV, they are coming to give us what they call guidelines. We have provided guidelines. The school should open to start operations at 8 or whatever. So we should stop to serve, to provide lip service and really do actual things, service, yes. Actual service. So we expect that there must be a discussion that relates to safety of our children in terms of the timing. People are going to school very, very early in the morning, and they are leaving school very, very late in the night. I mean, you find somebody at 9, 10, moving from school to home at 10 in the night, and is a child that is on foot, perhaps is a girl. All those are elements that expose somebody to unwarranted risks that can be avoided. So we expect, first of all, is that such are also one other risk that await our children. But it is something that Uganda can work upon, and it only calls for goodwill of people who are willing to serve, to come up and put forward a clear standard and make sure that that standard is enforced, starting with those who we think are in charge. Because the biggest problem we have here in Uganda is the fact that most of the people who are in charge of education are also players in education sector. Mostly, yes. So whereas they come up and say we should not do this, we should not do that, we should not do the other, in their own schools they are not doing what they are preaching. So we get that kind of controversy. The level of impunity, the level of connectedness, if somebody has a connection to a commissioner who is issuing a statement, so when there is anything, an attempt to reprimand, this person is calling, they call it Gambanogu. As you come to enforce, somebody is giving you a phone, talk to this one, such that you realize how connected or how powerful such a person is. But overall, for purposes of Uganda, for purposes of safety of our children, I think we need to really rise beyond those selfish whims. Indeed. And be able to appreciate one very clear standard that fits us and deserves us as a country.
Indeed. And now, away from road accidents, abductions, what other examples can you?
There are quite many. There are quite many. In the previous seasons, we were having a problem, especially now at school, the problems of fires. Very unfortunately, in some cases, some of these fires would even claim lives of our children. In some cases, we would see children's property getting destroyed. Maybe children are in their last term of doing UNEB examinations, and then fire takes everything down, so their notes, their property and everything is all raised down. All those are some of the cases that can happen. Was it last term, but one or around there, we're also having issues of food poisoning. I do recall one very serious case that happened, I think it was in areas of Kayunga, where a number of children were even hospitalized on that account. So one, we are starting schools. And so I can see that very immediate drive that is going to, that has now possessed school managers to seek for food, to buy portions in bulk, to buy beans in bulk, and so on and so forth. First of all, kindly take maximum caution to ensure that whatever you're purchasing for consumption of our children is actually purchased from reliable sources. That is number one. Because you know sometimes we tend to want those cheaper costs without knowing how they come to be cheap. If on a market price, portion is 2,000 shillings a kilo, maybe 100 kilograms is about, would that be 200 or around there?
100 kilograms, yes.
Yes. So if it is, and then somebody is coming to offer the same weight at a way less amount of money, before you rush in to say this is a hot deal that I must explore, ask what is the justification. Where on earth is this person growing this cheap maize? And how safe is this cheap maize?
Right.
So that is something very important. Let us be very cautious on who we are purchasing our food stuff from. Let us also have a lot of efforts in terms of how we are preserving our foods. I think for the case of Kayunga, that case of the poisoning that happened in Kayunga, somehow it was seen that it came either as a result of some negligence in storage. And you see, eventually, first of all, it can claim lives, because truly at one point, For example, those ones of Kayunga, they were adversely affected. But it can also ruin career. Somebody can be reprimanded that maybe you poisoned the people and so you go into prison, you go into that. But these are some of the things that we can avoid by taking some slight extra efforts. Extra efforts in terms of where and how are you purchasing whatever you're, how are you storing this and so on and so forth. Yes.
Very profound at that. Schools commence today for term 1 and we're looking at the security and safety of learners being a top priority, because if they're not safe, then why the education? How best can they achieve the goal of education that they are shooting and targeting at? Looking at some of the nuggets that were shared by SCP Rusoke yesterday during the weekly security brief in regards to schools reopening today, he mentioned that parents, indeed, as Momola has explained it, parents escort your children to school, particularly those in lower primary, but if you ask me, even those in secondary. However old your child is, at the end of the day, their safety matters and comes first.
Everybody is vulnerable.
Everybody is vulnerable. So even if it's a Form 6 student, escort that child to school, especially if they're still, they're under day school. But also he discouraged early morning and late evening movements, encouraging learners to use first and foremost main roads, but also move in groups, walk together in groups. And parents were also asked to monitor what their children carry to school to prevent possession of dangerous objects, drugs, or even alcohol in there. And he also highlighted on recurring conflicts over school feeding and transportation, including cases of overloading school vehicles. And of course, therein he stressed the need for cooperation to ensure learner safety throughout the term. I talked about the issue of transportation, and I felt your stature flip a bit there. What's going on through your mind when it comes to transportation? One of the things I've seen is overloading of these vans. You notice that a whole van has kids packed like sacks of potatoes in there, or even some of the vans are more of personal vehicles, picking kids from homes as early as 4:30 a.m., 5 a.m., picking these kids from school. What's your
First of all, it is going to start with these commercial vehicles. Today, the taxis that are operating today, we will see them filled up to the fullest, mattresses, cases, and then people piled like logs of wood, simply because people want to maximize profit. That is going to happen. And so we want to request the Uganda police really to prevail over such a situation for purposes of safety of the movement of our children. If a taxi is licensed to carry 14, let that be 14. Yes. But what today, transportation, I think, has now been turned into another very lucrative business in schools. And as you go to seek admission in most of these schools, especially these urban schools, people are providing you with options. You see now boarding and so on, but we also have shuttle fees. This much. Sometimes the shuttle fees are even higher than the school fees payable. You see? And so it has been turned up as a business venture within the schools. Now, that is okay for people to conduct their business for as long as they are doing it ethically. But we have some cases where people are using smaller cars that are licensed maybe to carry about 70 people, 7-seater cars. You see it filled up to carry about 30 children. People taking advantage of their sizes because they are in nursery. So if this car gets any problem, 30 souls are at risk.
As if it's a car from Masaka.
As if it is a car from Masaka. You can even imagine as if Masaka is not a part of Uganda. So we already know that if you chart a car from Masaka to Chotera, is it Chotera? If it is a small car for 5 passengers, you will get about 15 of you. And I mean that route is a clear route in Uganda with the police system and so. But that has been replicated into most of the school transport systems. And we think that this is something school management must really come upon. First of all, to appreciate that these people who you are piling have individually paid for safe transport. So kindly give respect to their pay and give them what they deserve. Secondly, to the road, people who are presiding over the roads, the road security, I mean the traffic authorities. the traffic police. I mean, why can't they prevail over such circumstances? Because these small vehicles, these school buses are passing right at their nose. Can you prevail over them? Because the risk we are looking at, accidents are accidents. They can knock in at any time. But imagine a situation where a car is presumed to be taking 70 people, and instead they are 17, they are 20, they are 30 people piled in
Let's
there.
also look
That
at
would be a very
borders.
brave. Then the borders.
Where parents load like 3 children on one
are
border.
few. If they are primary school going children, they could even be 6, 7.
On one border.
So you find a border man almost sitting at the tanker of his thing. And then children are piled from that point up to the very rare end. So all these are risks that we must appreciate. Whereas we want to make differences in terms of costs, but I think life must be taken very seriously, because for it doesn't have a second chance.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. There's no spare life for you. If you're just joining in, thank you so much for watching the show and choosing UBC TV. This morning, we are looking at the security and safety of learners being a top priority amidst everything else. Seeing as schools are opening today for term 1. In studio with us is Juma Mwamula. He is the General Secretary of the Uganda Private Teachers Union and is having this conversation with us this particular morning, which indeed affects all of us as stakeholders. We have children, we have nieces, nephews, we are parents, we are teachers, we are learners. So of course for the learners and their parents right now, most of them have already hit the road, but for those who are not reporting today, some are still home and definitely catching up with the show. But every stakeholder, this indeed serves us. Even if you do not have children, but you operate in the transport business, you operate on the road in one way or the other, you operate in a school in some form or shape, you interact with children at the end of the day. This is a conversation that is pertinent and rather important that you take note, learn and relearn, and choose to be a good steward at the end of the day. Now let's look at communication. What does communication between parents and schools look like? What is it supposed to look like, and how better can it be improved?
Allow me just to make one other thing before we get to the point of communication between parents and schools. Our children are a major target, especially on their way to schools, because of what is assumed to be in their possession. Right now, there are some people who think that when you look at a suitcase for a child, perhaps there are piled monies there that are due for school fees payment and other school requirements. And I think one way we should avoid that is actually to carry money with the children. We are glad today systems have overly improved. We have the banking systems now. From the comfort of your home, you can do banking, you can pay via mobile money, and so on and so forth. Let us avoid carrying money on children, because such are attractions for aggression towards them. When somebody believes that perhaps that suitcase has about this amount, the target is actually to come by hook or crook to make sure that you take away that. And now when somebody tries to fight back, sometimes even life can go. So where we can, please let us avoid. And I think the options are there. We actually can avoid that.
There are many. In fact, SCP Chetuma Rusoke, therein, at that very particular point, he cautioned, or he called upon schools and banks to make sure that they teach parents how to use the digital currencies, so that at the end of the day, no money is in circulation. And of course, banks are
no
also,
hard cash
no
is
hard
actually,
cash
yes,
is in circulation, but also to avoid the crowding of banks.
True.
To avoid that and just transact digitally at that. So let's
I
look
think
at
most schools have done that. There are school codes, pay codes, and so on and so forth. These days, somebody sit on his mobile money and do that. So we think that is a good thing, and we should embrace it as parents, as we are organized to take our children to school. I mean, don't pile $1 million because it is what is payable school fees to a learner that you carry and pay to bus, and no. For purposes of the safety of your child, safety of that money, please do not pile it on the head of the child. Speaking about communication,
please,
about parents and
teachers and the schools
and the schools. I don't know what context you are particularly looking at it, but for me, I want to believe that one of the core interests is, first of all, the safety, like we are saying, of our children. I mean, maybe if you have not been able to go to school, or even if you have escorted your child up to school, you still need to maintain that regular routine engagement to know how your child is faring. That is area number one. Then the other thing is in terms of what the school expects from you, and perhaps you have not fully fulfilled. It is a season where schools expect that we must have paid up our fees to the fullest. But I do not believe that everybody out there who is returning his or her child has actually done that. So it all calls for us to have an open engagement, a dialogue between the parent, and the school. And it is an inevitable option. We have to have a direct channel of communications. Schools and parents should have that direct channel. And now to us as parents, we are advised. It is my advice. Let us take our children to schools that are open up for talks. There are some environments where people are too busy to have an engagement with you as a parent. Avoid that, especially if you cannot fit in their demands. Let us take our children to schools where they are open for engagement. Open for engagement in terms of you expressing what you are not able to do at a certain time and perhaps asking or making appeal for what you can do at a later time. That is number one. Open for engagement in terms of the welfare and well-being of your own child, because that is the most important thing. I mean, when you surrender your child to a school, it does not mean that you end fathering or mothering that child. You continue to be your child, your bloodline. And so you have the responsibility. You have to know how he or she is doing. You have to know how the welfare and other things are. Relate with the schools that are open to listen to you and to answer to your calls. There are some children who are in schools with very special needs. Yes. Either related to sickness, related to social psycho support, and so many other things, family backgrounds. So the parent should never lose that line with his or her child simply because it's now in the hands of a school management. And so if school is closing off for such interactions, it is better you avoid, because like we have said, this girl or boy continue to be your child, your son, your daughter, even when he or she is in school. And so his well-being, his welfare is upon you primarily as a parent, and then the school later on.
You know, when you talk about that open communication in regards to welfare, there are schools that actually have that blockage, where a parent calls in to ask if they could talk to their children, but the school will always tell them, oh, the child is fine, the child is fine, the child is okay.
And for me, that is what I'm saying, that it is very irresponsible, it is very illogical. And so if that is what is happening, perhaps you can think about an avenue where you are sure you have communication with your child. That does not mean that parents out there should seek to speak to their children every day. But there must be a clear, known routine. Perhaps in a week, I can be able to speak to my daughter, to my son, maybe on a Sunday via so and so's phone. Or some schools even have those telephone booth points where somebody drops in coins and is able to call mom, is able to call dad, or call home at large. Such must happen, because what we are talking about is this child who leaves home and goes to whichever school he goes to is still a family member at some point. Whatever happens at home relates to him or her and affect him, and including his life very directly. Even this parent continue to be a mother or a father of that child who is in your hands as a head teacher or wherever in your gates of the schools. So you cannot just break that bondage simply because you think that the child is in school. And moreover, this moment here, we are teaching the children to belong to a community, to belong to a society. So it is not about the confinements of the school setup that you see when your child is with us, so do off everything that relates to the family and until the term ends. No, it cannot be that way. So because we have those parental hearts and we are desirous to keep in touch, let's go with the schools that actually provide for that. Normally, schools that, and it is actually called for, schools are supposed to have platforms for parents' engagement. Such issues must come out very vividly. We appreciate there are some schools with a very big population, but there must be a contact. There must be a contact, either a dormitory patron or matron, such that somebody is aware if a child requires special support from home, then there is that communication. If a child has an experience to share at school that is perhaps affecting him or her silently, then there is an opportunity to share. You do not wait for the end of the 3 months. Somebody has almost killed the whole term when he's dying with something he can't share at school, but then you have blocked off the opportunities to share with the family.
Now, let's look at the experience of teachers. Do you think in Uganda teachers are adequately trained to handle emergencies?
My belief is there is still need for more efforts in terms of preparing our teachers to handle emergencies. Like we have said, some of the emergencies that happen, especially in school where teachers are issues of fires, issues like, for example, we have already talked about issues of poisoning, those food poisoning and so on and so forth. These minor accidents, perhaps acid, and now that we are going digital, people in laboratories and so on and so forth, all those, and a few other things. For the many schools we have moved to, we have not seen evidence of adequate preparation to the side of the teachers in how they can handle such cases. I rarely see or even hear about drills. For example, people who are working in factory setup have routine drills for firefighting. I have not seen any such in school setup. No wonder schools even have fire extinguishers which expire without people even knowing, simply because they are not taken through those drills.
Right.
People have fire extinguishers right at the door of their classroom when they cannot even operate them, simply because of lack of those exercises. But you see, this is not something that cannot be worked upon. Because, like, for example, those simple drills of fire management and so on and so forth are issues that just require a 2-hour session. 2 hours session is enough for somebody to have basic knowledge that can help him or her. So what we are saying is, normally, when terms start like now, schools tend to over-concentrate on the academic cover. But we are now requesting that we expand beyond the academic cover and start looking at the real life situation and deliberately target to cover what is needed in our real life. So have time off, first of all, for such drills at schools. In the event of perhaps fire, how can we manage ourselves? And let that be involving from a teacher to the lowest learner. If it is a primary school, including nursery children, let them have that simple basic knowledge that in case we hear such a bell, it communicates to a risk. And so what happens? Maybe we run at point X. Let everybody be acquaint himself or herself with such.
Yes, and
such
sometimes you find that such drills are only held due to an event that happened at school X.
That is the unfortunate thing.
Of when the Budo fires happened.
Now every school went about it.
That's the only time I had a fire drill in my school.
And now 2, 3, 4 years go down the road, everybody think it can never come back. So everybody has put the guards on the rest.
Yes.
So those are some of the things that we can work on, and they are manageable. We invite our schools, first of all, to concentrate on the academic coverage. That is very, very important. But also these other life situations. I mean, in the case of such accidents, how do we manage? Sportive activities, let's give them due attention at the time. People do not want to spend any minute off. Every moment is in for class covering this, such that if a curriculum is supposed to be covered in 4 years, they want to cover it in 2 years and then have the other 2 years for revision. That is very okay. But it is depriving our children of other elements of life. Somebody does not only exist by his proficiency in English that you're teaching him or her. He needs to have that sportive skill. So give him time off to play. Let people go of time for playing, let them play. If it is time for prayers, either church, mosque, or wherever, let them have that moment to use the day for such. If it is time for relaxation, it is also one very important thing in life. Let people have time
to relax.
Off for themselves. Not every time to be into school, to be jumping here. Why are you not in? No. People should have time to relax. People should have time to bond. People should have time to socialize. It is a skill that is essential in our real life. Yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
Very profound at that. We're looking at the safety and security of learners in schools being a top priority. That's why we're having such conversations. In regards to firefighting, in case you're joining in and you're wondering why, that is the why. And to have this conversation with us is Juma Mwamula. He is the General Secretary of the Uganda Private Teachers Union, and speaking with us at that. Now let's look at the balance, striking the balance when it comes to discipline. How can the balance be struck between ensuring discipline amongst learners, but also protecting their rights at the same time?
Sometimes that is something that has been taken to be a little bit controversial, especially with people who want to claim to be rights activists.
Right.
They think that in a way of ensuring and promoting children's rights, I think they should be led to live their own way. And that seems to be the way how most of us are interpreting children's rights. But in my own view, it should start with well laid down code of conduct. First of all, schools are expected to have a well laid down code of conduct. The do's and the don'ts. Such that even before you reprimand a child, or before you praise one, there is a benchmark for even self-evaluation. If you know our schools do not expect people who conduct themselves in such a manner, let it be so clearly put and pinned on a notice board. Under such circumstance, even children can be able to do peer kind of monitoring, peer kind of check. I can be able to say, you are wrong, because you have contravened regulation number 10. As read on our school notice board. And so discipline can come out very naturally. But one very important thing is in life, school-going age or childhood is a learning age. And learning means people will do something that is not expected of them or that is wrong. So as parents, as school communities, we must have the sense to see how we correct them. That correction does not necessarily have to be very punitive correction where you are inflicting a lot of pain, where you are inflicting, some schools want to punish, almost punish Cain to death and so on and so forth. Such do not be. Give opportunity for somebody to correct his error in a manner that actually does not necessarily inflict pain or pose threat to life. Schools have options where you think somebody has overly violated your norms. You can suspend. You can expel. All those are within the measure, the means of schools. But let us avoid, for example, corporal punishments that have long been outlawed.
Right.
Then, parents. I know especially parents who come from, who think that they are fairly rich, want to kind of portray that picture among their children, even in schools. A child will go to school and he wants to conduct himself as a boss before his or her teacher. I think that is very discouraging. It is very unfortunate, it's very demoralizing in the face of a teacher, and it is part of the issues that bring problems. So we should be able to speak to our children that even when they believe that they are more advantaged, including being more advantaged than their teachers, let them exercise some minimum respect. So as we set off our children from home going to school, let us emphasize the element of respect, especially to elders, respect to the peer. Let people have respect for their colleagues at school. Let people have respect for their teachers at school. Even when you believe you come from a richer background, even when you think your pocket money is way more than the salary for your teacher, kindly reserve the respect for him. Such is a good start that can help us inculcate elements of discipline. Then, like we said earlier, schools having well-put code of conduct. Then, these days, teachers, and I think this is across the board, in government schools, our colleagues only appear in school at many of our colleagues in government payroll only want to appear in school at such a time when they are supposed to be in class. They don't have to have any attachment with any business outside the classroom. So people are not mindful about learners' conduct, people are not mindful about learners' discipline. For you, you think if you went to school, it's like they are in a university. But even in universities, people are seeing, so when you act yourself, when you act errantly, you can be reprimanded. But there is that sense of laissez-faire, and it doesn't bother, it doesn't concern me, especially of many of our colleagues who are on government payroll. He appears in school maybe for 2 days, whereas he's supposed to be there full time. And for his 2 days, he's only moving from one classroom to another to do the basic that he's supposed to do. But his participation in terms of co-curricular, his participation in terms of this other general support to children and overseeing their conduct and so on is very minimal. We want to step up in that. Because people also behave the way they behave in relationship to environment. If you know you're not supervised, you're not overseen, you may actually get relaxed and try to misconduct. So that is one other thing.
Right.
For the colleagues in private schools, for them, they are so much inclined to what has been placed into my terms and conditions of service. I am supposed to be here. Some of the private schools, because they want to pay less, they even tell you you will be teaching, you will be appearing here 2 days in a week. For them, they think when they say 2 days in a week, that means you will have a justification to offer a less salary. So you think you are getting much because you're offering a less salary, but you're actually doing a great disservice, because this teacher, apart from being in his classroom to teach that topic that he handles in his subject, is also supposed to be a role model. And how do you become a role model to your learners is when you come out of the classroom and you conduct yourself so children see from you how you talk normally, how you walk naturally, how you conduct yourself outside the classroom is the role that you are supposed to provide to model to your children. But now, if you deprive the teachers of such, then we are also killing a generation. So I think it is something that is upon us as managers of schools, really to provide ample time for our children. And then the parents out there who are setting their children now off, please speak to them to have a sense of respect, a sense of readiness to learn. There are some children who, because of the background of their homes, when they reach at school, they think whatever prevails in their houses is what should happen at school. But in a school setup is something far different.
It's different, yes.
Yes. Your peer who is a class monitor, who is a dormitory prefect, will ask you to mop. Maybe at your home, you do not even your mother cannot ask you to mop because there is a maid or something. But now the setup here is a little bit different. So let's have children prepared to go and learn by speaking to them.
Indeed. Very profound nuggets shared there, especially when it comes to balancing discipline and protecting and preserving the rights of that child. We're looking at the safety and security of learners being a top priority as it is. Term 1 has begun today, or is beginning today. Schools were opening for Term 1. Juma Mwamula has given us a lot to think about and a lot to chew on. I hope you're learning, unlearning, and relearning this morning. Now, time is such an enemy, but we still have a few minutes to chew on in this conversation. Let's look at policies. What policies exist to keep all learners safe in Ugandan schools?
Lately, there has been a number of guidelines issued by Minister of Education. The only problem about those guidelines is the issue of compliance, the issue of enforcement. But for example, the ministry, when cases of fire became so rampant, there were some guidelines that relate to fire management, issues that every school has to have fire extinguishers, such fire extinguishers should be serviced and all that. Such things have happened. We have guidelines that relate to how children, especially boarding schools, should operate. The abolition of 3-decker systems and so on. But I mean, all these have been said, but are not actual. When we go to school, when we go to the market, we are seeing 3-deckers on a high sale. Right. So where are they going? Right. They are going into dormitories of our schools, but it has guidelines already there to abolish 3-decker systems.
So implementation is a problem.
Implementation, supervision is a problem. And one of the issues why it is a problem is because even the people who are putting forth these guidelines, the people who want to be enforcing authorities are also practicing what they are preaching against. So that is part of the problem. It's not bad to be practicing, but it is good that when you are practicing, you actually compliant, you yourself. But they are the first line of breaking the guidelines that they are providing. And so sometimes we lose it at that point. So these are some of the things we can reflect on. There are guidelines in terms of operating boarding facilities. There are special permissions that must be sought for a school to have a boarding facility. Now that term is beginning, we are going to see so many schools without licensed boarding facilities having children admitted into boarding. But like we are saying, the onus is into the supervisory ministry really to ensure there is compliance. If a guideline is out, are people really following it to the standard? Then the other very important thing, speaking about these policies, how effective a policy can work is how involving it has been. If people sit in the comfort of their offices and then start writing those very good papers without taking regard to involvement of the people out there, it might become a little bit hard. So we want to invite especially the technocrats and the authorities and the ministries and those that are putting forward the guidelines and other things, regulations, always have involvement. Involvement does not mean drawing a participation of people from the different departments at your ministry. Maybe we have brought technicals from this department and so we have no. There are several stakeholders. You as a ministry, you are one player, but we have a line of parents who have very peculiar interest, have their participation. We have a line of the media who have a lot of information. As Juma come here is providing his version, another teacher will come and provide, another person, Ugandan, will come and... So you are a hub of all this information. What is your extent of participation into this? So you're just there to mirror what they are reflecting, what they are putting forward. So we want you to be part of a debate that shapes which policy is better for a Uganda educational system. So the element of participation, involvement, and participation must be taken up very seriously, and it's something very simple that is affordable. It only requires for goodwill, especially for people who want to provide education. Now, very finally, maybe as we come to wind up, I want to thank you first of all, and thank our teachers, especially those from private schools, about this. I want to say that for colleagues in the private education system, as Uganda Private Teachers Union, we are doing a self-reflection. We are aware we cannot have enough from the salaries that we have, that our schools are paying us. But we don't need to leave those schools because that is the call that we have. We are teachers and ours is to serve the nation through teaching. So please stay in your schools even with that minimal payment that you are receiving at the moment. Your union has an option. First of all, it provides you with knowledge of how you can do alternative incomes. Keep on to that small salary as it may be, but there is something different that you can also do. We have our colleagues who can speak to us about options of alternative income. If you are interested, you may reach out to us. We shall send the teams to your school. At the moment, as teachers, we have also done self-support systems of raising some money from amongst our small earnings. And so we are able to provide the capital to each other. Yes, so if for you, you have done a self-discovery, but you're still teaching and your salary is low, but you think on top of your school job, you can also do a side hustle, you can walk to your union. and seek for capitation.
Right.
Your union will help you at that. So I want to encourage you colleagues that we have that opportunity. We are doing self-capitation. We are doing self-awareness in terms of what more can we do on top of our teaching, all intended to make our service better, to make our lives better. And we want to give the greatest gratitude to His Excellency, the President of Uganda, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. At one time, he beefed up our capital. He granted us some good money, and we are still using it in an evolving manner, and we think we can be able to reach out to every ready and willing teacher out there. So I want to make a call that if you are such a person who has a progressive mind, one, keep at your school, but reach out to your union for a hand for you to be able to realize your dreams. Uganda Private Teachers Union can be a partner in that journey.
Very profound. Thank you very much. Juma Mwamula, he is the General Secretary of the Uganda Private Teachers Union. He's been speaking with us in regards to safety, security of learners being a top priority as Term 1 opens. Lots of things to learn, lots of things to take home. I think my highlight so far has been policy makers who sit here on our sets, talk to Ugandans about do this, do that, but unfortunately do not do in their own schools, the schools that they own. As they say monkey do. So what you say, indeed, you must. What you preach must be what you do. That's it for this morning. Let's do this again tomorrow. For now, for God and my country, good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah yo,
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000 or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily or use the MyMTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Exercise can't be sustained. Eating can't be stopped. It's even harder to lose weight